Happy Thanksgiving Eve.
Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's the night before Thanksgiving.
Twas the night before the turkey got prepared.
Actually, apparently, one turkey got a presidential pardon.
Yeah, which one was it? Tater or Tot? I didn't catch which one got his reprieve.
I wasn't even aware. So what does that mean?
There was
does that mean bad news for the other one?
Yeah,
works?
That's exactly, dude.
Okay, so
there was two of them there, both of them, and one name was Tater and one was Tot, and Obama was going to forgive one of them. So
yeah, but for their transgressions, what do turkeys really do?
Yeah,
I mean, to really kind of deserve this lot in life when you think about it, right? So I saw it on TV. It was a rather large. It was a very presidential bird, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So here's how things work in my home. We have one bird, and that thing gets eaten.
Yeah.
So that is how it pays for its sins of really doing nothing except marching around in a field somewhere. And
there will be turkey carcasses galore tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. So unless you're a vegetarian, and then I don't know what you're going to do with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've actually, believe it or not, I have lived long enough, Cliff, to have experienced the unpent pleasure of a tofurkey.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't ever do that. If you ever have the opportunity, just don't do that.
How about a turducken? Have you done the turducken?
I've done a turducken. I've actually...
Those are good.
Yeah, it's not bad. But we're just doing the traditional, stuff, a bunch of stuff in the bird. And I'm actually not frying a turkey this year. I usually fry turkeys, but...
You know what, dude? I have not tried that yet.
It is, I got to tell you.
I haven't eaten one. I haven't tried it that somebody else has prepared. I haven't. I have no idea about the deep fried turkey deal yet.
I'm pretty handy with frying turkeys.
That's cool. That's cool.
Pretty handy with frying turkeys.
Get myself in one of those. Hey, listen, everybody. Right Sides Only Radio. Cliff and Evan here. It's Wednesday evening, the night before Thanksgiving. We're excited to be back on the mics with you guys tonight. We obviously have gotten back from Homestead. Saw the championship race out there with a ton of other people, which was great, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We have a call-in number if you guys are listening to the show tonight and want to call in, and let's talk about the end of the 2016 season and where we're going in 2017. There's certainly a lot of stuff there that's already starting to percolate towards the top that I'm assuming is going to keep us somewhat busy through the off-season as NASCAR fans, as NASCAR continues to change and progress and do all that magical voodoo that NASCAR does. But that number, 855-482-7223, you can get on the line with us tonight. We have a great guest that's joining us later on tonight, Evan.
Yes, we're going to have Brian Obiedzenski, or otherwise affectionately known as Obie, driver of the number 29 late model Chevrolet SS, hailing from North Carolina, none other North Carolina, the Aviator Brewing, Baby Moon Cafe, Nectar Sunglasses, and by the way, the right front tire, Right Sides Only Radio is on the side there. It's in there. You can see it. You can actually see it in there.
Yeah, look close.
Zip Air Tools, by the way, on that car too. So he's actually going to be calling in. He's going to be talking about a very special race that they are running on Thanksgiving Day at Southern National Motorsports Park in North Carolina, which is a great home track. So bring the family. Eat a little bit of turkey, go down there. Believe it or not, it's going to be chock full of talent. Of course, we're all very, very fond of Obie. Someone that you might recognize from the rightfronttire.com, Haley Moody, and the number 50 is actually going to be racing in that race as well.
All right.
So chances are that's going to be some good elbows up, good hard Thanksgiving racing for entertainment. Turn off the TV, take your family outdoors, go get the racing fuel, get yourself a hot dog, get yourself a cold beverage, and watch some good grassroots racing.
Sounds good, man. I mean, unfortunately, we're all back in our respective states and nowhere near any of that, because I know for sure we would certainly love to pop in there and see something like that this weekend or tomorrow out there at Southern National. But we will be there in spirit rooting along a friend of the show, Obie. So again, like Evan said, if you guys have an opportunity, check them out, follow Obie. We'll get into more with him later, and he can fill us in on what's going on out there tomorrow and the rest of this weekend. So That's that.
We're not just going to be with him in spirit, Cliff.
No.
Our ugly mugs are actually on his car.
On the side of the car.
He actually did that. So he's like, these are two beautiful-looking faces. So.
Hey, I will say this, dude. You hooked me up. You mentioned the Aviator Brewing. You hooked me up with a koozie, dude. And this is the official koozie of the studio here in California now. So this thing's working out really, really well.
I have been guarding that thing for a long time. So I've got this. So everyone, if you didn't know, this weekend was the first time Cliff and I have actually met physically face to face.
Looked in the eyes.
In the face. This is the first time that we've ever actually met face to face. And I'll be honest with you, people. I wasn't surprised. There wasn't anything like overwhelming to me that I didn't expect. I guess that's a tribute to how much we communicate all the time.
Yeah.
So when I met Cliff, it was kind of like I've known him forever. It was so matter of fact. Hey, what's going on, dude? Hey, what's going on, dude? You know, a little back pat hug, a little awkward hug, and then we kind of went on about our business. But I've got this box, so I've been promising this to Cliff for a long time, and I guess what's going to happen is I'm going to parse these items out, maybe like one at a time.
Yeah.
So it started off, believe it or not, at Texas Motor Speedway. I get Cliff this shirt at Texas Motor Speedway in April. So I've been toting that around with me. It's become my albatross.
Yeah.
And I start putting this box, this care package together of mementos that I've collected, hero cards that people have given me, like Molly Helmuth and that kind of thing, and T-shirts. And before I go on the trip, I'm like, I still haven't shipped Cliff his box. So then it becomes a struggle to figure out what I can actually fit in my backpack.
Because Evan only travels with a backpack.
So Evan actually travels with a backpack. So I basically put everything I need for like 4 days into a backpack.
Yeah.
And Cliff can tell you, man, I was popping.
Oh, yeah.
I had no wardrobe malfunctions when I was at Homestead.
Not at all, dude. You were
my hair was absolutely on point.
Yeah.
My clothes were on point. So good. Just great times. I mean, I can't say into words if you haven't experienced the opportunity of meeting people that you've met on social media at races.
Yeah.
You'll find that it transcends all the other the political drama and all the other crap that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And we basically talked racing and we talked family and we had a great time.
Got to know everybody way more than we already knew. So that was a really good time.
Yeah. Maybe in some respects a little too much, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, really a great time. So Cliff actually got a couple of mementos finally.
Yeah.
And one of them was the coveted Aviator koozie. So mad props to Aviator Brewing and, of course, Obie for hooking us up with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've had to hide it because they're popular around the house. Everybody wants them. The teenagers want them. Everybody wants them. They're colorful. They say beer on the side. So,
right? Yeah, it says beer is my friend.
Beer is your friend.
How'd you know?
Who's going to argue that?
Right? So, we had a great time out there at Homestead. We could certainly dive into that a little bit. Like Evan said, it's everything that Evan said times 10. I mean, for me, being out here stuck on the left coast, excuse me, constantly and not as close to some of these folks that maybe cross paths as frequently as others do. But I'm telling you what, same thing goes for Evan and his wife and Bat and Nick, who we met. And Carlton, I mean, to have a name and a face and finally give a handshake behind those people that you interact with and talk to constantly was great. So for me to finally be able to get out, obviously you look at it and go, Evan and I being partners on the podcast here has always been good. It's always been great. We've always been, very communicative with each other. But then once you get the opportunity to finally meet face to face, put it all together, and like Evan says, it's like this big magical thing that just happened. And so it was good. I mean, we had a really good time out there with everybody. So, all good stuff. Nothing to complain about there. We had a great time.
Yeah, we got to meet a lot of really cool people. I got to shake some hands and kiss some babies. I got to meet a three-time Legend Series champion Tony Mungy from Michigan. I got to meet Robbie Lyons finally. Robbie Lyons is actually a resident of Florida. He was actually technically my very first interview.
Yeah.
My very first one. And he introduced me to one Garrett Smithley. Technically, he was kind of the shot heard around the world for the right front tire. So I finally got to meet him. And, of course, I posted some of those pictures up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter for everyone to see.
Right.
And that's like I said, it's a great thing about that experience because everyone is so enveloped in the experience. it's just a neat deal. And like I said, everything else, the entire world basically melts away. As soon as you walk into the track, there literally is no drama to speak of. People seem to have a good time, and everyone has their well, last year they called it their nation, right? So you had I noticed they didn't have that. It didn't look like they had that. They didn't do the nation thing.
Yeah, they didn't align that so well this year.
We rolled into Homestead with 4 very viable competitors for champions in the Cup Series.
Yep.
And they definitely exhibited why they were in that Final Four, the Championship Four. Every single one of them really worked their heart out that entire race. So,
I mean, we certainly went in there expecting, I guess I do this a lot, right? So I looked at it from the perspective, like I was telling my wife, I said, look at so many opportunities for history here, right? We're looking at a 6-time champion like Jimmy Johnson shooting for his 7th championship this year. We looked at Tony Stewart, who wasn't even in the chase at this point, but very historical, watching him race his last race. The first times watching Joey have the opportunity to possibly capture a championship, Carl Edwards, we could have seen Kyle Busch do a back-to-back championship. I mean, there just was no shortage of awesome things to focus on going into Homestead this weekend. And then the precursor to all that was the obvious win in the Xfinity by Daniel Suarez, right? And we've, social media has been alive talking about that and the goods, the bads, and the uglies. But I tell you what, from my perspective, and I was telling Evan this when we were out at Homestead this last weekend, they did a documentary on Daniel Suarez and kind of his upbringing, his background out of Monterrey, Mexico, and then coming up here through NASCAR's diversity program, watching him get into a ride like Joe Gibbs Racing, but then to come out here like that within a short period of time and just knock the cover off the ball was amazing. And I was very happy to be a part of that and see Daniel seal that win and get that championship. No shortage of good stuff.
And especially following his career from the start, basically from him climbing into the Joe Gibbs team. I just remember it doesn't seem that long ago that everybody was trying to figure out when this kid was going to get his first win, right? That's always the big thing is let's put as much pressure on these guys because they don't already do it enough as it is on them getting their first win, right? So obviously he does that in due form. He punches his ticket into the chase. And really, to be honest with you, he's been a viable competitor all season, but in a way, I guess because he's kind of the new kid on the block,
right?
He just and his personality is such that he really doesn't make a big spectacle of himself. He's actually a very humble guy.
Right.
And then, like I said, he shows up at the championship race. And I mean, really, for the most part, had that race in the palm of his hand, save but probably a handful of laps here and there. He got in a battle. Of course, Eric Jones was not going to just give up.
No.
And that looked like that was going to be a heck of a race. And of course, Kyle Larson, he was rooting around the top 5 pretty much all night. And it looked like the 20 car was starting to close the gap. And we were looking at each other and making the signal with our fingers about the closing of the gap between those two cars. And I was thinking, oh, man, this is going to be a good heads up. This is really going to be a good heads up race.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, as what always happens, you throw a couple of restarts into the mix. Eric Jones actually bumped the wall. That slowed him up, and it looks like maybe it knocked his car out just enough where he just really couldn't contend. And it was basically Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez basically just had to finish the race. He pretty much had it.
Yeah, he did.
But no, very historic, and you can't not love that story. To me, that's what the sport is all about.
Yeah, well, it's good to see something, like the diversity program. We've talked to people even on the show like Gary Clute that are through the different programs that NASCAR has set up through the next program, where NASCAR is obviously doing work in providing opportunities for these up-and-coming drivers to have an opportunity to win races, get behind the wheel, kind of prove themselves out there on the track. So it's really cool as fans when we get an opportunity to kind of see all that culminate and come together and then watch a guy like Daniel walk away with the hardware. We'd be a little remiss if we didn't talk about Johnny Sauter and his first win, the Camping World Truck Series. Unfortunately, we weren't there or present for that one. That was a different night. That was the first night that we all kind of got together, so we spent our time catching up.
It was a travel night, and I understand. And I understand. And trust me, I understand these teams. They travel a lot.
Sure.
And I know that it's really hard on them as well, but basically we all, for the most part, now, Cliff obviously had been in Florida for a couple of days, kind of soaking up some sun and getting some local flavor. We kind of flew in, and we had basically spent all day traveling, and then the group tries to get together, and how that whole thing goes. And we could have gone, but we didn't. And Johnny Sauter, I mean, like I said, funny enough, William Byron, I mean, it's hard to get your head around, but this is the way that it works. It's hard to get your head around a guy who wins 7 races.
Explain it in a way that people who don't follow NASCAR are going to understand this.
It's very simple.
Okay.
In the new playoff system, it's a bracket system. Points matter to a degree. Obviously, William Byron had more than won enough races to initially punch his way into the ticket. But then he didn't actually win, which was going to be the requirement for him to make it to the final round. So he was out there obviously competing for a win as far as he wants to win the race, obviously at Homestead. Right. He was just not competing for the chase. It's a knockout. It is a knockout series, basically, this chase is. That's the way that it works.
Yeah.
And I've heard pro and con about it. Twitter has been a flame about it since it came out. I'm not going to speak to how I feel about it one way or another. I personally like it because the level of tension just seems to ratchet up. The intensity seems to ratchet up, even with the fans.
Right. Yeah.
Even with the fans.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to roll into Homestead with the cup already in your hand.
Yeah, pretty much.
You still have to win again.
Right.
So I personally, from that standpoint, I'm a fan of it because of the tension that it creates. And I'll be honest with you, even the negative publicity, in my opinion, is good. As long as people are talking about NASCAR,
sure.
Good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
Great. Let me tell you something. For all you people that are seat watchers, I saw more people at that Xfinity race than I have actually seen in an Xfinity race in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, Cliff was sitting there with me. That cup race was pretty well packed.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of people in the stands, and I have in the back of my mind, I have a couple explanations for that are perfectly logical.
Mm-hmm.
Smoke's last cup race,
yeah,
and I'll be honest with you, Jimmy racing for number 7.
Yeah,
there were a lot of Jimmy fans where we were sitting.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't hear any boos. I didn't hear any boos when he was doing his burnout, which brings me to my next subject. We just talked about Daniel Suarez, and we talked about the impact of the drive for diversity.
Yeah,
Jimmy Johnson had a lot going against him coming into NASCAR as well.
Sure.
He was an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
He was from California. He had raced everything basically you could possibly race except stock cars.
Right.
Jeff Gordon went out on a limb, stuck up for him, and offered up basically a 50% stake in his car to Mr. Hendrick to bring him into the series. He was not a Busch or Xfinity, series champion. Never really spent a lot of time in the lesser series. Comes up to sprint, and obviously... Well, you've seen. The guy has won. Well, now he's won 7. But up until the race at Homestead, had won 6 of the last 10 championships.
Amazing.
Amazing
accomplishment, man.
Yeah, there is absolutely. And what's weird, and it's almost palpable, and when we started talking about it at the race, we all kind of snapped. It just never seems like he's gotten he's never really, it doesn't seem, unless it's his fans, it's hard for Jimmy to develop the respect or the accolades that other people have who, let's face it, there's some great drivers out there who have never won championships.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of them out there that are great drivers and are great people who have never won championships. And that's Dale Jr. right now, aside. I don't want to set the world on fire, but Mark Martin, there's a prime example. Everyone loves Mark Martin. Right. Never won a Sprint Cup championship.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of beloved drivers out there who've never won one, let alone now number 7. And the guy doesn't show any signs of falling into the backdrop either.
Well, here's where you learn to appreciate this, I think, from a fan perspective, at least from my perspective. So where you learn to appreciate this is when you see something like that where the odds are kind of stacked against you. You know, even looking at that championship race as we saw with the 4 contenders, right? I mean, you've got 4 guys out there that are competing for this title win.
Very solid, very solid, by the way.
Very solid in that their performance was really, really good, and there was some huge gambles happening out there, some significant things. Obviously, look at, I don't want to make a joke with Kyle Busch, but he panicked over the tire, right? Whether it was down or not, and whatever. You can tell that the tension is there in trying to win these championships. This stuff is not easy, right? And as a matter of fact, like we had talked about over the weekend, watching these cars go through inspection and that sort of thing, that these bounds were completely pushed to the edges in order for them to win. Here's the big kicker to me: Jimmy Johnson started at the back of that field.
Yep.
So when you talk about somebody who's got the drive and the passion, the desire to win these races and give it everything they have in order to do so, for a guy to start a race at the end of the field and then end up the winner of it, it blows your mind, And when you look at that, you see that those parts and pieces of pit strategy and what happens on the track and their ability to move and get themselves in position and dealing with the restarts. When all that stuff kind of starts happening in front of you, granted, my wife at the time, she kind of goes, wow, this race is kind of, it's a little boring, because of the long green flag runs that we had.
Green flag runs, yeah. Right, and they are. And people seem to kind of keep a low profile, and like we saw. Yeah. Until about the last 20 laps of the race.
And we knew it was coming. My wife kept elbowing me. She's like, there's got to be a caution soon. There's got to be a caution. It's like, look, it's coming. We're all waiting for it, right?
Oh, well, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I called the wreck fest. So right? I feel bad. Of course, I feel bad when it happened.
Right.
But I thought these guys have been, you've got all four contenders in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we started to see kind of a rash of restarts, and I'm thinking at some point, and there was kind of one of those deals where right before the last restart there was that question about people grabbing tires.
Right.
And then we kind of started asking ourselves, like, what is this guy doing? He just went and grabbed tires. What? I don't understand it.
Right.
And then obviously the big one happens. And what happened after that big wreck, to me is emblematical of how I want NASCAR drivers, especially at the highest level, to behave. And in the end, when it was all said and done, Carl Edwards said, hey, that was my bad. Joey actually watched the video, and apparently after watching the tape, he went back and said, I don't see where Carl did anything wrong.
I thought he called it himself, saying it was his bad.
Yeah, so nobody was really willing to point the finger. They were racing hard. They both understood what was on the table.
Yeah.
They were actually, and Cliff and I saw it, there were fans in the stands talking smack to each other. And Carl Edwards is shaking Todd Gordon's hand saying, hey, man, I'm sorry, my bad, right?
The crowd behind us was going, when you started walking towards Joey's pit box, everybody's like, go get him, getting all excited like he's going to go up there and,
pounce on somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Start drilling Todd Gordon or something.
Yeah, because obviously it was Todd Gordon's fault. So.
Yeah.
Well, and to circle back to Jimmy, and we were in the garage actually watching these cars. These cars seem to really struggle at this race in tech, to the point where there were cars still going back and forth through tech almost right up until the command.
Yeah.
One in particular who was actually a chaser.
Yeah.
And then apparently the 48 team had to actually change something, which cycles them all the way back to the pack. But here's the interesting thing, and this is where I have massive amounts. This is how I can tell how much respect I have for a driver. I've never been like one of those like super fawning kind of fans for any one driver. I've got drivers that I like, and I have drivers that I just kind of, I've got respect for all of them.
Sure.
But when you know that Jimmy Johnson is going all the way to the back, and in the back of your mind, you're like, you know what? They could put that guy a lap down.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm sorry. And I don't mean to super fan this whole event. It's big enough on its own without me kind of going off the rails. But the guy is the picture of excellence. I don't really care what anyone else says. And guess what? He really doesn't have to say anything either.
No.
Really, all he has to do is just keep the picture of the 7 trophies, if he can fit them on his phone,
right,
and just kind of hold that up.
Yeah.
He never has to say a word. Be like, oh, really? How many of these you got laying around? I've got 35 Martinsville clocks, and he's got a whole garage full of Martinsville clocks. And,
talk to the hand.
Yeah, talk to the hand. Yeah, I've got so many monster miles. I have a closet full of monsters, miles of monsters. And by the way, I got 7 of these. Yeah. So he's fixing to run out of fingers for championship rings, by the way. If you're not counting, he has all but 3 of his fingers basically full of championship rings now. So, whatever. Yeah. Whatever people want to think is fine. Of course, I picked Joey before Daytona to win the championship. And I'm still going to go ahead and say this. Mm-hmm. Had it not been for that rather momentous wreck near the end of the race, mm-hmm. I think he was charging up front. Obviously, he was charging up front when the big wreck happened. But
it was kind of interesting. No, I agree with you, and it was kind of interesting to watch Joey's day kind of come together and fall apart a little bit. You could tell that. I mean, they were certainly struggling a little bit to keep and maintain that momentum that they had, pretty much throughout the entire race. It wasn't really until towards the end where it seemed like they were kind of had everything pointed in the right direction. So it wasn't easy. That's all I got to say about it.
No, and it wasn't easy for anybody in that track. Obviously, no. We were told that a lot of drivers
because of Kyle Larson. I mean, Kyle Larson was kind of upsetted the whole thing.
Well, he definitely made it a point. And he did so in the Xfinity race, too, much to the chagrin of someone who was actually running for the chase, and Justin Allgaier. They actually shared a little bit of contact on the backstretch when Kyle Larson decided to swing up and cut Justin Allgaier off.
Right.
There was a little bit of contact. I think the 7 car kind of announced with his front bumper that he wasn't too happy about that. And he became quite the nuisance in the Cup race as well, which is well within his right, obviously.
Sure.
I always question, and maybe he's not concerned about it, but if I was a relatively new guy in the Cup Series, I'd be a little concerned with the friends that I was making. Of course, this precipitates people into this whole debate where they're talking about, well, they're not out there to make friends. Like, well, I understand that. And there's a lot of drivers out there, let's face it, there's a lot of drivers out there that kind of stand alone. And everyone knows who I'm talking about. There's a handful of drivers that do a pretty good job of making enemies for whatever reason. Interestingly enough, they still continue to win. So you can make the argument both ways that, well, you don't necessarily need friends. Like, well, no, but sometimes it helps to have people who are willing to cut you a little bit of slack when you need it.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. None of these guys are going to lift and let you win just because they think you're a great guy.
Yeah.
That's not what the mutual respect has to do with.
Exactly.
The mutual respect has to do with getting a push when you need a push. The mutual respect has to do with maybe not pushing you a little bit too hard when you really don't need it.
Yeah.
The mutual respect has to do with, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fight for this line. I might even be the slower car, but I'm going to go ahead and fight for this line because of what you did to me at the last race.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want you to have it.
And it was obvious this weekend, right? I mean, we saw a few times of people kind of giving each other a little bit of room and maybe not pushing as hard. And that's what's interesting is as much as we've talked about this through the regular season where you can certainly see some of the animosity early on with Kenseth and, this and that. But, they certainly somehow the temperature out of this championship race was everybody did their best to race as cleanly as possible up until certain points. But for the most part, you could tell that, despite all the competition and the pressure that they were under, they were still very much aware and a little, I guess you'd call it, a little forgiving of one another out there on the track.
I think so. And the proof was the 4 car.
Yeah.
The 4 car had, and we saw it. I mean, the 4 car had the speed for a large portion of the race.
Yeah.
That being said, when that car started to fall off, and it did, as time went by, it appeared to me that the 4 car or Kevin Harvick seemed a little conscientious of the people that were around him and tried to stay out of the way of the people that were chasing for the championship.
Right.
And like you said, same thing with Matt Kenseth and a handful of them.
Yeah.
I think that they wanted to race hard, and obviously they want to win the race because it's still a win.
Right. You have to.
But also being cognizant of the fact that, hey, if I race this guy too hard, I could destroy his chances for a cup, and you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to be that guy?
Yeah.
To completely desroy, well, except for one guy last year. That's a whole different story. Yeah. But I mean, at the championship race, you really don't want to be the guy who alters history, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was actually, you're right. It was really kind of a neat exhibition of everyone racing hard and having a good time, but also kind of behaving themselves. And that's the kind of racing I like to see.
Sure. So. Yeah. It was all the way around. I mean, I came back home and for whatever reason, my DVR recorded only the last 10 laps of that race. So I still want to kind of go back and watch the whole thing again, just because, it's a different perspective and that sort of thing. But certainly there was, like we've been talking about here, I mean, there was a lot to look forward to out of this race. There was a lot of great sportsmanship that was on display, I would say. Yeah, the fans behind us that were sitting behind us, when the Joey Carl Edwards thing, it's pretty funny actually. When we do this podcast and we spend so much time on social media and see how people respond and react to what happens on the track or what NASCAR is doing, and then sitting in the stands and getting kind of that feedback right then and there when those events are happening, that you're looking at going, uh-oh, this is going to be the drama that's now going to hit the Twitter universe and everything else, right? And right away, dude, the people jump right on the fact that hey, it was so-and-so's fault, it was this, it was that, I'm telling you, it's pretty interesting, especially given the kind of the day and age we're in right now, kind of overall in this country, and how people perceive what's going on or what happened and this and that. I mean, it was very interesting to me, especially knowing that, we talk about this stuff and go, okay, well, wait a minute, let's look back, you don't get the benefit of the rewind when you're sitting there live watching all this to see it just happened, dude. It's hard to go back and look at the sprint vision and go, okay, yeah, I could see kind of Carl cut him down low and didn't come, got back up into him, this and that. All we saw was, holy cow, Joey's way low on the apron. Carl's coming down, cut him off. Next thing you know, you see a flaming fireball from Truex bouncing off the turn one wall.
There were cars everywhere. Yeah. There were cars involved in that wreck that I didn't even know were still on the lead lap.
You don't know what to watch.
There were just cars everywhere.
You don't know what to watch.
And you can't. And put that in the perspective of a driver.
Yeah.
They don't have the luxury we have,
right,
of rewinding and saying, "Oh, that was a bad move."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And watching that wreck was a true testament to how fast these cars gain speed.
Well, yeah,
exactly. It looked like they were hitting top speed by the time that it was literally 25 or 30 feet after the restart line when the wreck actually happened, until all the cars came to rest. And there were cars wrapped almost all the way around the next turn,
right,
from the accident. So, I mean, that kind of, like I said, and people, if we actually had the opportunity to talk to some really wonderful people. Some of them I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave them kind of anonymous for the sake of the people that they represent. But if you're wondering why people are so sensitive, why drivers are so sensitive to keeping their cars intact, if you're wondering the extent of dedication that goes into making these cars do what they do week in, week out, so we can all have a good time, and Cliff and I can sit here and talk about it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I talked to a person that works for a very notable elite level cup team who works 7 days a week for 40 weeks straight. 7 days a week.
Yeah.
For 40 straight weeks. No time. I mean, with an exception of the breaks that you see that people have, well, guess what happens? Those guys still work.
Yeah.
They still work every day.
Yeah.
They don't travel on the weeks that they have those breaks, but they still work. And guess what? They're going to roll up shop. They're going to go back to North Carolina or back to Colorado or back wherever their shops are actually at. They're going to work over the next several weeks, 6 or 7 days a week. They're not going to travel, but they're going to work every single day getting tools restocked and toolboxes painted. Yeah. And, guess what? Some of them are bringing 4, maybe 5 cars to Daytona. So they have cars to set up still.
Right.
So if you wonder why these guys get so angered when their cars get arbitrarily destroyed, and they always pay tribute, man, my crew deserves so much better than that.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
Because of all that effort, man.
Because of all that effort, all those hours spent away from their families, their kids, their wives, their significant others, their pets, whatever it is that's important to them.
Right.
And the same thing with the media that follows them around. Let's give these guys a little bit of credit, and let's, give them a big thanks when you have the opportunity to thank them, because they're really the guys that are making it all happen.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Hey, everybody, we've been waiting for Obie to join us. He's on the line with us, so we'll go ahead and bring Obie on, and we'll catch up with him and talk about the Classic tomorrow that he's headed out to. So let's see if we can get Obie on the line with us. Obie, sir, are you there?
I am, guys. How's it going?
Good evening.
Good evening, Obie.
How you? What's up, fellas? You guys doing good?
Oh yeah, man. We're you know us. I mean, what's not to like, right? I mean, we're always.
You can hand us a crap sandwich and we'd still be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat of butter,
right, man. Fresh off the plane from Miami.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a little sunburnt. Evan is. Evan got a little bit of sun, by the way.
Yes, he did. Rock lobster.
Rock lobster.
No. It's all good. So what's going on, Obie? We get you what? So you don't want to sit around the table and eating the cranberry sauce and all that stuff? You had to make it exciting.
Nah, man,
so what do you got going on?
This the Southern National Motorsports Park every year hosts the Thanksgiving Classic. And the Classic is actually run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm still going to gain 30 pounds eating turkey and eating stuff, watching football.
Okay.
But we will be at the track because there are so many teams registered and teams coming from all over the place that they actually open the track Thanksgiving Day to start parking the haulers. To park the haulers and have some practice time if you need it. So I'm going to take a run down there and park everything and get everything situated to where we're good to go, and then hopefully make it home, and there's still turkey on the table and that kind of deal. But super excited about it. I know you guys, you're just kind of getting your feet wet in the grassroots stuff more and more, but they've been running this for a number of years, and it's usually the biggest event that Southern National puts on. And we're running Friday with a chance to run Saturday, and now there's kind of talks that something might be put together for Sunday. So we'll see how it goes. I could spend the entire weekend at the track. My family's here from New York.
Nice.
Both my wife's side and my parents, they're coming down. They'll be here in the morning when we wake up. But being able to run in front of family is totally cool, man.
Yeah, that is awesome.
A lot of stuff going on.
Very cool.
So
I was
like I said, we run. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say on Friday is the street stocks, the Legends, and my class, the Chargers. Saturday is the Southeast Mini Stock Series, the Legends, Modifieds, U-Cars, Limited Late Models, and Bombers. That's all one day. And then Sunday is the big day. This is where the big boys come out and play, and hopefully we'll find our way into this field. But the super late models, the little guys, little kids, and the Bandoleros, and then the 200-lap late model stock Thanksgiving Classic. That's a cannot miss event. Some of the biggest names in grassroots racing, coast to coast, will be here for this race. It's a big deal, and to win that one is definitely coveted.
Interesting. So you kind of you hit on what I was going to try to interrupt you with, because I was looking at their website to see what was going on. Yeah, exactly. You go ahead with the thunder. So I was looking at this. I mean, they're racing like almost like every class you can imagine out there this weekend, right?
Everything but tricycle.
Yeah, exactly. Like. So is this Charger?
No, dude, they will. They actually have a child. They have a child tricycle pedal car race.
Yes.
So they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink, man.
Awesome. So
don't tell me there's a kitchen sink toss too, because I'm gonna throw my phone and just walk away.
We got to get tickets. I want to try that.
We're gonna actually, Obie. I love you, but I want to see the kitchen sink toss. So
yeah, nice. So you mentioned,
I mean, I don't know if I could get it.
So you mentioned, Obie, that you're racing in the Charger series or race for this weekend.
Correct.
So is that different?
Charger,
is that different
division
from what you
Chargers.
usually do?
No, actually, each track, each region has a name for the class.
Oh, okay.
But essentially, it boils down to what we consider a NASCAR Division 2. Your Division 1 would be your late model with a built motor.
Okay.
Where we are a late model with a crate motor to cut down on expenses for the teams. My motor's directly from Chevrolet Racing. We race with some people that have some Ford Racing stuff. Mm-hmm. But to cut the cost to the racer and to the teams, it keeps us from going into those motors. So they're a sealed unit where they're built, they're dynoed, they're put in the cars, and the only difference between us and late model stock is those guys have an open motor that they're dyno testing, and they've got multiple motors to try and find more horsepower. No, I mean, I'm telling you guys the same thing that the Cup teams do. So
right.
The only thing that's different there is a shock package and a motor deal. But that's this weekend we're the Chargers.
Gotcha.
You could go next week to somewhere else, and we could be the limited late model type deal. So
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Yep.
So tell go ahead and take a second. I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but take a second to brag a little bit, kind of a recap about the season you've had this year, because it has been really phenomenal. So talk a little bit about how you finished up, and maybe a little bit about some prospects for 2017 too.
Gotcha. The future is always fun. Started the season in March, I believe. It was still cold and had some great runs, and we're getting acclimated to this car with this team, with the owner that I'm driving for. And I got to bring along my crew chief, Captain Ron, he's the man. He's the man with a plan behind the scenes. He doesn't get the attention he deserves, but here's his chance, So we started working on the car, and we were top five, and then June came around, and we broke out with that win, which was big, put us in contention for points, and we ended up finishing the year Rookie of the Year in Division II, and fourth in the points with a win in my first year in the series, which was awesome. And, from that, just got to hang out with some sponsors, ended up with Zip Air Tools, and Isaac, Chris, William, Derek, George, all those guys. We ended up out in Las Vegas, had some fun at SEMA out there at the trade show. I got to have my family at the track, got to bring the daughter to the track, and, it was a great year. Looking forward to next year, we're going to return to the class again. We're going to return to the Charger division out there, Southern National, which is a D2 class there, and we're going to go after the championship. And, with any performance in this sport comes phone calls, and you pick up those phone calls, and it's a lot of stuff that you can't talk about, but there's always stuff in the works to climb in this car and see how you can do. And so we're going to try and keep those quiet for now, but there are some things on the horizon. And, if you work hard, people will realize that you're working hard for your goals.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Absolutely. And, you obviously, that we definitely recognize the work that you do. We've been fans from the very beginning. I definitely have. So we look forward to a prosperous 2017, but obviously we want you to do good this weekend. So we're going to give you a big, kind of like hoorah. So go out there and get you some, grab you a handful of track. You're going to be racing against another local as well that we all know. I believe Haley's going to be racing in that series too. At least that's my understanding.
Right.
I've been seeing some pictures, Obie. I'm going to warn you. Just going to warn you. So
nothing against Haley, man, but the green is the green is the deal. Man.
I know,
the green machine, man.
I know. Just we're definitely.
She's gonna twist my arm now when I get out there.
Oh yeah, and she's little, but I wouldn't want to make her mad. So you might get I'm just saying, you might get the whole Superfly snooker off the top turnbuckle. So, but definitely wish you some. Now Isaac is texting me right now, and he's asking me to ask you about some experiences in Vegas, but I'm not going to do that. I like to think that we've transcended that kind of. We all know that what happens in Vegas stays between me and Isaac. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect spot for it. That's the absolute perfect spot for it.
You need to. I hope someone was. Did y'all assign someone for Isaac duty? Is that how that worked? You say, okay, it's your job to watch Isaac tonight.
We thought Isaac would be the wild man until we met some friends of ours from Taiwan. And their English is a little bit broken, and they're super cool dudes, but they got themselves into trouble just being crazy. So we had a good time. We kept it PG. I got to play a slot machine for the first time. I've never kind of done that stuff before, but it was, in all honesty, the coolest thing about Vegas, being from the East Coast, never being to the West Coast like that, the mountains around the city are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Sunset, those Red Rock Mountains are beautiful, man. That was so cool to see. It puts so much in perspective, Look how far racing has taken me,
Oh,
in
yeah.
a beautiful place right now.
Oh, yeah.
That was surreal, man.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Let's face it. Racing has put you on Right Sides Only Radio, dude. So, I mean, I can't even stop laughing. I can't even stop laughing at that one. So,
you got to be amazed at how you ended up here.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and apologize for that in advance. But just remember, you can have all this. Man, thank you so much for being such an avid supporter of the Right Front Tire and now Right Sides Only Radio. And man, you're a great guy. You're a great role model. I like to think of you as a great friend as well. So we wish you the best of luck this weekend. Safe racing, safe travels. great Thanksgiving to Jacqueline and that beautiful baby and your entire family.
Yeah. Best of luck out there for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Obie.
You guys, too. I appreciate all the support, all the help. And anyone listening, follow along at The Real Obie on all the socials. Keep up with what's going on this week. It may be one race, it may be three, so you just never know. Big shout-out to Aviator Brewing Company, Baby Moon Cafe, Zip Air Tools, Nectar Sunglasses, Shamel Racing, Chevrolet, the whole crew. Everybody knows who it is. I can't talk enough about them, but you guys also hit them up for me, too. So appreciate it, and you guys have a good Thanksgiving, and follow along. Hopefully we'll have a big turkey trophy to put on the table and take a picture of with some Aviator Brew on Saturday.
We'll be looking forward to it, man.
All right, fellas, you guys have a good night, all right?
Thanks, Obie. Have a good night.
You too, brother. All right.
You too, Phil.
Yep.
Bye.
It's Obie for you. Good luck to him
Obie,
out there
man.
this weekend. Sounds like he's going to have his hands full. That's a big event, dude.
He's another one of those guys. It's like he makes you just smile just instantly.
Oh, yeah.
He's always upbeat. He's always very positive. He's always looking towards the sky. He's never looking at his feet.
Good thing.
And if you, yeah, man. Well, I mean, that's hey, you got to look ahead. I mean, if that's you need to look at where you want to be, and he's all about looking where you want to be. So, people, if you follow this show and you don't follow Obie, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you definitely need to go follow at The Real Obie 29.
Yep.
Great, just an absolute great guy, and he is. If you could create the perfect combination of ability, personality, integrity, hard work, he's that guy, all kind of summed up into one. So
yeah. And head over to therealobie29.com, and you can follow all of his other social media stuff there. Like he said, he's all over the place, Twitter and Instagram, and I know that he keeps most of that stuff going all the time when he's out at the tracks and that sort of thing. So good way to keep track of Obie, friend of the show, and figure out what he's up to this weekend out there at Southern National. Should be a good time.
Yeah, and we implore everybody. Obviously, we do love our big NASCAR tracks. We love all the big ones, but we also are really big fans of the grassroots movements.
Yeah.
So go out there, take a look at some of these small tracks. Go look at Southern National Motorsports. Go look at these tracks. East Boston, another huge track that's been around for a million years. Go start paying attention to these tracks. Take some friends out. Go make a local race. Support guys like Obie and Haley and all these people that are out there battling it out every weekend. Because some of these folks might be folks that you're watching on the grand stage one at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So you're actually kind of stacking your war chest for the future by supporting these people.
Absolutely.
And like I said, these people, if you go on Twitter, they're all big. They're all kind of in one big hodgepodge with all of us, with the Right Sides Only Radio and the Right Front Tire. We're all just one big, happy, dysfunctional family.
Sure, and that's like we said earlier in the show. It's a big attribution to the fact of the power of social media and getting to know people and getting to know more about them and what's driving them and that sort of thing. We've talked about it many, many times on this show throughout this year. The fact that, this passion, the drive for competition, all that stuff kind of culminates and comes together. And then when you get an opportunity like somebody like Obie or other drivers that the Right Front Tires been involved with over the last few years and gotten to know and that sort of thing. Once you've had that opportunity to kind of dig under the hood a little bit with these folks and you realize, all the hard work, all the effort, all the gratefulness, obviously I'm not going to try to make it cheesy around Thanksgiving, but all the gratefulness around, the fact that these,
don't be a turkey.
Yeah, don't be a turkey. Put in a lot of effort for this stuff. As fans, we appreciate all that effort and having the opportunity to kind of share in that as you guys, as people chase those dreams and seal up wins and championships and everything else. It's all good stuff. All good. So
while we're talking about the future,
yes.
First of all, this is really officially our last show of the regular season. Where obviously we didn't do like a 3-hour show because I think Cliff and I are just tired, to be honest with you. Miami was a tough one.
Yeah.
But next year, 2017, I think is going to be great. This year has been phenomenal in the respect that Cliff and I have got an opportunity to communicate a lot. We're starting to establish, the show is actually starting to establish some foundation, but we also know that it's time to grow to the next level.
Yeah.
So Cliff and I are well aware of this. So over the off season, you can bet that Cliff and I are going to be battening down the hatches. We're going to be pulling the geek hats out, and we're going to be working on some very new, fresh, big changes for 2017. Mm-hmm. So be expecting that. Be expecting some press releases over the offseason through the Right Front Tire. Obviously, the Right Front Tire has been kind of quiet here over the past couple of months. But we really have some cool things coming with that too. So 2017 is going to be a rollout of what I like to consider to be probably the first official year, the first official season of Right Sides Only Radio and the Right Front Tire kind of being under the big umbrella, right. And working together as a team towards our common goal, which is to bring all the fans and followers and the people that have supported us some good, fresh perspective on the sport that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely.
So be looking for that.
Yeah, we're excited about that. I mean, for the stuff that we've done with the podcast this year and having the opportunity, like I said, I mean, what Obie even said, right? It leads you into the fact that, things take you different places, and as doors open and things change, and we certainly have opportunity to do some stuff here at Right Sides Only Radio and the Right Front Tire, like Evan said, and we're excited about that too. We want to put in the effort and the work as well. We love bringing this stuff to you guys every week, and we know that we certainly have some work to do as well, and we're looking forward to that in this next year. So stick with us. Keep your eyes on at Right Sides Radio on Twitter, the rightsidesonlyradio.com. If you have an opportunity to get there, we'll keep you guys posted over there, and there's some new stuff that we're going to do over there as well. The rightfronttire.com, where Evans kind of was the launch pad for everything that pretty much we've talked about throughout this season on this show. Has built some great relationships in some of those up and coming drivers like Natalie Decker and Haley Moody and Obie, and just the list goes on and on. So we know that we have a great opportunity ahead of us to continue to dig in with those folks and bring that stuff to you guys. We're excited to get to know these people, and the things that we find out, we would love to share that with you, and we will continue to do so in this next coming season. And certainly NASCAR is going to keep us busy because we're all waiting for the ball to drop on title sponsorship, who's staying, who's going. Certainly the list is long, and we don't want to beat all the dead horses that have already been laid to rest this week. We got turkeys to deal with tomorrow, so.
We got turkeys to deal with. And like I said, there's been a lot of stuff happening already in the motorsports world. Obviously, we heard about the Roush Fenway. It looks like they're doing some reorganization, and that's all phenomenal. I really don't want to burn up a whole lot of airtime talking about it, because obviously there's going to be an evolution rolling into 2017. Yeah, and I think a lot of teams know that they've got some retooling to do, some business reconsiderations to do, sponsorships to reconsider, drivers to reconsider. Biffle obviously is parting ways after 20 years with Roush Fenway Racing, and one thing I can definitely say is change might be uncomfortable. It might be a little bit scary, but in the end, it is always a good thing. Yeah. So in the end, you have to believe that the people that are doing what they're doing are doing so to bring you a better product. Yeah. So I would implore you to please be patient, hang tight. It's going to be a really exciting 2017. We got Stewart-Haas Racing rolling over to Ford. Yeah. We got Clint Boyer going over to the 14 team. We have Greg Biffle right now, who his future is unknown. Yep. We're rolling into 2017 with a 7-time champion, Jimmy Johnson. We just crowned an Xfinity champion. We have Eric Jones joining forces with Furniture Row Racing. So there's going to be a lot of really cool, exciting things that we get to talk about rolling into 2017. Sure. That being said, we would also be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to a lot of people actually, who have supported us along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and start off and say Zip Air Tools, Isaac Fitzwater, the Chew family, that entire group of people who have been so supportive of Right Sides Only Radio. They have offered up freebies, and they have given us pens and stickers to give away and all kinds of stuff. And if we could just start getting some callers, we can start giving some free stuff away. Nectar sunglasses. And by the way, Christmas is coming up. Yeah. Nudge, wink. We have actually, Right Sides Only Radio has moved into what I believe to be like level 5 ambassadorship with Nectar sunglasses. That means people are going out and they're using RSOR 15. Nice. And they're getting their 15% off their purchase at Nectar sunglasses. And guess what? RSOR 15, that code runs all the way to the end of 2016.
There you go.
So buy your friends, your family, your kids. They make great stocking stuffers. They're not very expensive. Cliff saw me. I was sporting mine all weekend long. Yeah, absolutely. They're great. They're actually really good sunglasses. So go buy some. Get a 15% discount. And guess what? They're going to be running specials, and they're going to be trying to move product all the way through Christmas. Right. So go get yourself some Nectar sunglasses.
That's it. And then obviously 3030 Coffee is a big
Steve Elmore and gang.
Steve Elmore out there at 3030 Coffee. You can follow him at Twitter at 3030 Coffee. Big supporter of Obie as well. Go follow him, go check him out. But Steve Elmore's been a big supporter of Right Sides Only Radio and the Right Front Tire. Obviously, he's been involved with us now for this last several months that we've been doing Right Sides Only Radio podcast. Been very supportive of the show, so we certainly put a shout out to him and showing our appreciation for everything he's done to support what we're doing. Light Up the World Beverages. Again, we still have a promo code there as well. So go follow at Light Up Beverage. They're doing the Light Up LED water bottles with the custom printed labels. If you guys are having holiday parties, New Year's, Christmas parties, company Christmas parties, that sort of thing, go check them out. Go check out our website. We got promo codes there as well for Light Up the World Beverages. Great opportunity, great organization. That type of money, I'm sure, makes its way back into, again, like we always say, support those who support the sport. Darren Hagen and gang over there are obviously doing that. But again, if you have an opportunity to check them out, get those labels on a water bottle for your event or something like that, use our promo code, save yourself some money. But again, a huge supporter of the Right Front Tire and Right Sides Only Radio. So we certainly appreciate Darren and everything he's done for that as well.
Yeah, there's Potter and Family, shout out to them. The folks over at Morning Neurosis, the Unwritable Rant. Her and Dave, the producer, have been big supporters of Right Sides Only Radio. So basically, if you're a follower of us and you've been dialing in and you've downloaded the app and you've been sticking it out with us while we've been developing this show, and you've been sticking it out with the rightfronttire.com while we've been developing that site, then we certainly appreciate it. We want to give a big thanks to @Batman.
Yes.
We can't thank her. We want to give a big shout out to CJ Merck, who is actually a staff writer for the rightfronttire.com, so be expecting some big things from him. Want to give a big shout out to Al Berube, who is actually a web developer. He's going to be helping us out. This is kind of the staff that we're developing for 2017.
Yeah.
But obviously, Batman has been there with us for a really long time, so we just adore her. So go give her a follow, give her a high five, give her a hug on Twitter, because we had the opportunity this weekend to thank her for everything that she's done for us. And she's a very big part, believe it or not, of what we do. And she's a huge, huge, huge personality with a big heart. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Go follow Honest Race Fan, HRF. We got the chance to meet him this weekend. Great guy. He's a Kyle Busch fan. I'm not going to hold that against him.
No, we won't. We like him.
Oh yeah, he's a keeper. We're gonna keep him. Yeah.
Hey folks, this is you're listening to Right Sides Only Radio podcast. Cliff and Evan. We certainly appreciate all the effort. Like we said, go download the app. The app's still there. We're still going to be doing episodes through the off season. We're going to be tweaking and working on all the stuff that we just talked about. And again, thank you so much for supporting all this. We really appreciate the opportunity for everybody that we shook hands with and had an opportunity to meet face to face out there at Homestead this last weekend. The list just goes on and on and on. But here's the funny thing. Great sport, guys. Somewhere along the lines, once you're face to face with these folks, it's like family. It was like Thanksgiving 1.0 over the weekend. So great stuff. So keep it up. We certainly appreciate it. Evan and I will work our tails off to continue to bring you guys some good stuff.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. Take care.